carbs will kill you to an extent, you start including them, but your rest of the lifestyle is shit.
So too much of protein can harm your brain and make you less intelligent. Okay.
So forget about excess of protein. To make a person at least reach their protein optimal protein level is also so difficult. Watching porn or gambling or eating processed food and things like that,
Does that impact our quality of sleep as well?
You can't sleep without watching your phone or tabs.
Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of the ABHIIFIT Podcast, and I am actually excited to see a new background. Well, it's a new background, new topic, new controversial things we're going to be talking about. So today's session is particularly about your brain, functionality, sleep, and sexual desires. And let's see how our fitness related decisions, a lot of the things we eat, a lot of the myths we believe in, how do they actually contribute to our regular lifestyle? So I would like to invite Abhinav Malhotra. Hi Abhinav, how are you?
Hi Diksha, how are you?
I'm doing very well, and I think we've been discussing some really interesting topics so far related to health, fitness, and so on. Today we're going to be going a bit deeper into brain power, sexual desires, and better sleep and whatever contributes to that.
I'm pretty excited for this one. These are interesting topics, and I hope this comes out to be a valuable conversation.
So, see, a lot of people say you are what you eat, and your diet has a great impact on how you're feeling. And so, what is one of the basic mistakes that people make when they are thinking about diet or when they plan their diet when they come to you?
Like, you're talking about the myths that are prevailing or the misconception and all?
Misconceptions around diet.
Yeah.
A common one that people come to you with.
Oh man, there are too many. Like, it's very hard to pick one, or there are like probably hundreds. Most common one, grown up with them, maybe low fat diets are good. Fat makes you fat. So they anything which is high in oil or this and that, they'll probably avoid. Well, it's not the case. Fat doesn't make you fat. Excess of calories make you fat. I've covered it in my last podcast. In fact, fat is very important. Dietary fat has a lot of functions, of absorption of fat soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K, making of cell membranes and things like that. Brain function. So fats are extremely important for the body. You should have at least 0.5 grams per kilo of body weight of dietary fat. On the other extreme, there's another set of people like carbs are bad for you. So they'll be like, low on carbs and this and that compulsorily. Carbs will kill you to an extent. That is also untrue. So basically, what you should be focusing on, of course, calories is the main thing. Your behaviors. You should have good relationship with food. Your protein intake has to be the primary importance. You should have it anything between 1.6 to 2.2 grams of protein per kilo of body weight, and the rest should come from carbs and fats. Depending on your preferences, how you feel, and things like that. So neither fats are bad nor carbs are bad. It's the totality of your behaviors and your lifestyle, your protein intake. And there's one more thing, the people are just obsessed with calories. So they think that all the calories are equal. It's fine. I understand the importance of calories, but how you're taking those calories are also important. Which sources they're coming from, like
Totally.
protein, carbs, and fats. So yeah, there are too many, gluten and dairy. Like, there's so many diet myths. It's very difficult to cover on one podcast exclusively cover for this as well.
Absolutely. I think we should have one podcast on all these things because, people keep talking about go gluten free, go dairy free, go sugar free, and your life will be sorted and so on. I was like, how can you give a generic prescription to everybody? It's like, okay, this diet is going to be working for everyone. And it's just so odd how people don't realize that their body requires everybody requires a different diet. And perhaps everyone needs to be treated differently as well.
There's a very famous reel on Instagram that I saw, where basically they're mocking a different set of people's. Someone saying, okay, the fats are bad, so they exclude the fats. The carbs are bad, so they exclude the carbs. Somebody says gluten is bad. Somebody says this is bad. So basically, what is left on the plate is just ice. So
Correct.
I've forgotten that's kind of so
Right.
so it's not like that. You
Yes.
got to understand a lot of things before you plan the diet. But the foundation has to be your behavior, your protein intake, and the rest can come from the other sources.
True. So now I actually want to go a bit deeper into understanding how does our brain react to the kinds of things that we are eating. In today's data and age, we are actually surrounded by people who are complaining about brain fog, lack of focus. They're not able to concentrate, and so. And the reason, the most common reason, sorry, the most common reason they're coming up with is their food,
Yeah.
and that we should not have these kind of things, that it's impacting our brain. Number one, does food actually have a direct correlation to focus and sharpening of the brain and so on?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what kind of food helps reduce your focus and what helps you increase focus?
See, it's a very difficult question to answer just if you talk about food. Say, if I tell you some of the best foods for the brain, you start including them, but the rest of the lifestyle is shit. It's not going to help you. If I tell you, hey, remove these foods, but still the rest of the lifestyle is still shit, it's still not going to help you. So, brain function, improvement in cognition and memory and focus and things like that, it's multifactorial. So it's not just the foods, there's a lot of things that contribute to that. I can name it, the big ones are exercise. If you're sedentary, no matter what foods you're having or not having, it's not going to help your brain. So exercise, nutrition, yes. How you're sleeping, how you're managing stress, and with brain there are a lot of other things as well. Your alcohol, social interactions. The more social you are, the better it is for the brain. So I can break it down one by one. When it comes to exercise, both aerobic exercise and strength training, they contribute to brain function. If you're doing aerobic exercises like cardio and all, it improves the blood flow to the brain. So with blood flow comes oxygen, comes nutrients, so it helps nourishing the neurons. Yeah. If it comes to strength training, I discussed it in my previous podcast as well. Any movement is done by the brain. So if you're using your brain, and especially if it is under resistance, it amplifies all those activities. Yeah. It also leads training, any movement training, be it cardio or strength training, it also helps with the increased production of BDNF, brain-derived neurotropic factors, which are basically proteins that help with neurogenesis, the birth of new nerve cells. So movement in particular is extremely beneficial. So any planned exercise, any movement which is not planned as well, and everything is helping the brain. Okay.
Right.
When it comes to nutrition, inclusion of omega 3s, fatty acids, it's essential fatty acids, which are extremely important for your brain cells. Any food that are rich in antioxidants. Now, if I say berries and things like that, it's all cool. But in general, you should be having a lot more antioxidants, either through your supplements or through berries and all. Just having berries will not give you a lot of antioxidants.
Sure.
You'll have to have a lot of berries for that as well. So, but people think, oh, berries is good for the brain and all. But yeah, omega 3s, antioxidant. And what you should avoid is a lot of processed foods, a lot of sugars, because that leads to chronic inflammation. It leads to insulin resistance. Insulin resistance both in the brain and the other cells. So if the brain cells are insulin resistant, they are not responsive to glucose. They're not going to work well. So that leads to a lot of brain fog issues and all. How you're sleeping, sleep is the biggest one when it comes to brain health, especially deep sleep. What your deep sleep score is. It helps to improve the brain function. And if you're chronically sleep deprived, no matter what you exercise, no matter what you eat, your brain is going to feel like shit, and it is going to keep deteriorating. Another big one is stress management. People who are chronically under stress, their brain actually keeps shrinking. There are a lot of studies about it. There are a lot of
Yes.
evidence about it. So how you manage your stress. Alcohol is absolutely detrimental to the brain. it's fine. You need alcohol these days for socializing and things like that. But try to limit it, not to go overboard with this. I have a lot of people who are just going for parties, networking events, and things like that. But and then they're complaining of brain fog and things like that.
Totally.
Yeah, that should
Yes.
not be the case. And social interactions is a big one. Apart from what you're eating, you're exercising, you're sleeping, and studies have proven that if you are socially interactive, you're talking, to new people, and you're basically talking new things and all. It all leads to brain formation. In fact, for kids as well, going to school and interacting is the biggest thing that contributes to brain development. Same happens with the adults.
Yes.
So if you're isolated, your brain keeps declining.
Yeah.
Apart from all there are a lot of cognitive stuff that we should be doing, which people don't do. People don't use their brains now.
Right.
Everything there on the mobile, use of social media,
Hmm.
number, everything. Even people, including me, I'm not very good with roads, because I'm so reliant on GPS. So basically, little things that we were earlier used to doing.
Now our brains not used to doing
Yeah,
anything.
so brain, like any other organ, works on the principle of use it or lose it. So you're just gonna not use your brain at all.
Right.
It's not gonna help you.
Absolutely.
You should play games, brain games. You should read. Reading is one of the biggest thing for the brain. People don't read these days.
Yeah.
People listen to podcasts more, and they don't read. Yeah, it's a lot of things that are helpful for brain. Nutrition does play an impact, but only nutrition or inclusion or exclusion of certain foods will not change the game. You should be it's multifactorial, and you should work with the lifestyle and cognition and other factors, sleep and stress management and all.
Totally. I agree with you. I agree. We can't obviously pinpoint on one particular thing and say that, this can, literally make you very sharp. It's a Bonvita piyo, Horlicks nahi pilaya tumhari maa ne, Complan pilao,
Although the marketing
dimag.
gimmicks, man,
All of this
this food
marketing
is good
gimmicks.
for this
Huh.
biscuit will have this and that. So all these are marketing gimmicks. So what your total lifestyle is will determine more. In general, after 30s, your brain starts declining, and after 30s, the early signs of dementia. And
Okay.
dementia is basically, dementia and Alzheimer's, right? Like forgetfulness and
Yes. Also
memory and all that
memory.
stuff. Yeah. People are getting more and more prone to Alzheimer's now just because of the shit lifestyle, over the food they're eating, all sugars and processed food and no activity because the brain is getting insulin resistant. Like diabetes is insulin resistant, is due to insulin resistance. Similarly, Alzheimer's is also. In diabetes, your muscle cells do not respond to insulin because of high blood sugar, and in Alzheimer's, your brain cells do not respond to insulin. So the glucose doesn't enter the brain cells, and it doesn't work properly. So then there are memory decline and things like that. So yeah, sugar intake, processed intake, not moving enough, and all that stuff.
Very nice, very nice. Coming to this, let's also understand there's a very Google topic going around these days. That's like, say, protein is harming your brain. So, too much of protein can harm your brain and make you less intelligent.
That's bullshit.
Okay.
Okay, but yeah, finish the question.
No, that's all. So, I mean, is it true or false? Does it make sense? Is it bullshit? What's it like? So, you said it's bullshit. Now, tell us why.
Okay, excess of protein you're talking about, right? Too much. See, I'll tell you in practicality. Since I've been a fitness professional for the last 15 years, and everyone who walks into my door for consultation, I can tell you honestly, at least 95% of them are already protein deficient. Okay, number one. So forget about excess of protein. To make a person at least reach their protein limit,
Optimal
optimal
level.
protein level, is
Yes.
also so difficult. I'll give you a context. Like a sedentary person requires 0.8 grams of protein per kilo of body weight. So if you're say 80 kilos, you need at least 65 grams of protein. People not people are not having that amount of protein. Now you add exercise to it, your protein requirements go between 1.5 to 2.2 grams of protein per kilo of body weight. And if I tell them, an 80 kg individual who's not even having, say, 30-40 grams of protein, to up your protein intake to around 180 grams per day, like he says, I can't eat that much. And there is an upper limit to it. studies have shown even up to 3.5 grams of protein per kilo of body weight is safe for people with normal kidney function.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you have a normal kidney function and liver function, any excess of protein, even if you bother about it, is safe. Nothing happens, and same for the brain. So protein toxicity is a thing that people actually get worried about. They
Correct.
think about protein toxicity, which basically means excess of protein leads to more buildup of ammonia and urea in the body, which is not able to. So basically, what happens when you eat protein, it gets digested into amino acids. So amino acids are responsible for they get used for different functions like muscle repair and creation of enzymes and things like that. Now there's a nitrogen component in the amino acid which gets converted to ammonia. Now, ammonia is toxic for the body, so the liver converts ammonia to urea, and urea is excreted out. Excess of urea is excreted out through the kidneys. So, a person who has an impaired kidney function will have a problem with excreting that urea. Yeah, a person with pre-existing liver disease like cirrhosis or hepatitis will have problems converting that excess of ammonia to urea. But other than that, a normal healthy individual who doesn't have liver and kidney issues, they're absolutely fine. Excess of protein is actually degraded, is used for glucose production as well before all this thing. So whenever a person comes to me, the first thing I check is the blood work, how healthy a person is from inside. If there are existing liver and kidney issues, then probably I'll not limit their protein intake, but I will gradually up it. Yeah, but even then, 1.5 times 2.2 grams of protein per kilo of body weight is very hard to get.
Correct.
Currently,
Correct.
I'm having 270 grams of protein. I'm around 85 kilos
Right.
of body weight,
Right.
and it's very hard to get it,
Maintain.
to
Yes.
maintain it. I just have to rely on shakes to protein shakes to cover it.
Cover it. I completely understand. And it's just so odd. People read anything, they even stop doing the basics that they're
Yeah.
doing. So it's like, oh, too much of protein will harm my brain. Let me not have any at all. So I'm
You're already
glad.
not having any, man. At least you up
Yes.
it to the optimal levels, and then
Yes.
we talk about excess.
Totally.
You can't even have the optimal level when you talk about excess. That's
Excess.
crazy, man. And these magazine articles which are talking about excess
Yes.
of proteins and toxicity and all this stuff,
Yes.
it leads to people getting more, screwed in the mind.
Totally. The other topic, does consumption of certain kind of food wreck your sexual drive without you knowing?
Okay, the answer lies in the same foods that I just spoke about. Excess of sugar intake, excess of processed food, excess of alcohol, and smoking. It's not a food, but things like that. They will lead to impairment of sexual drive, libido, you can say, and it's because of a lot of mechanisms. Basically, any behavior issues that lead to obesity and metabolic syndrome and high inflammation in the body will over time in the long run lead to reduction of your sexual drive and even performance. The reasons are a lot. If you are chronically having excess of sugars, excess of processed foods, and having good quality stuff, lesser and lesser, and you're not exercising, so weight gain will happen, and this will lead to a lot of inflammation in the body. With inflammation, there are a lot of pro-inflammatory enzymes like cytokines and TNL alpha, interleukin 6. So they lead to a lot of stuff. They lead to drop in testosterone production. They lead to the disruption of neurotransmitters like dopamine, serotonin, and all. So it leads to a drop in sexual drive, you can say. So again, the answer lies in having in moderation, having 80% of the good foods, exercising more, doing strength training, any activity which is helping you, de-stress. A lot of stress also leads to a drop in testosterone production and disruption in neurotransmitters. Also, there's a problem with erectile dysfunction. A lot of men, especially
Obviously.
after 40s, but they don't talk about it, but
Yes.
they talk, it's a thing. So if there are metabolic syndrome in the body, where insulin resistance issues, high level of body fat. So what happens is, the blood vessels, they keep getting corroded. Yeah. So there's impairment of the blood flow into the sexual organs like penis and all. So that is why a lot of people these days are having these ED issues. So they rely on Cialis and things like that.
Yes.
But these things are very, very reversible.
Right.
You get back to healthy habits, healthy foods, unprocessed food most of the time. You can have your processed food, but in the moderation. You can have your alcohol. And with alcohol, excessive consumption, it also leads to drop in testosterone levels. A lot
Right.
of testosterone gets converted to estrogen. So yeah, so same stuff.
Same stuff, kind of relies here. Very interesting. So
Yeah.
I didn't know about this at all. So I'm quite interested. Well, the next thing is that people, obviously, I mean, there's an excessive consumption of porn these days, and one of the things that's being said is that porn lowers down people's testosterone level as well. Is that true?
Well, I don't know about testosterone, to be honest. I don't think it leads to a drop in testosterone levels, but what it does lead to is dopamine desensitization. So, any kind of addictive behaviors, you say watching porn or gambling or eating processed food and things like that, uh, there is a release of dopamine, which is a motivation and reward neurotransmitter. Okay, so if a person is engaging in porn, there's a high level of dopamine which is getting secreted, yeah, and then there is a crash. So when there's a crash, then there is the need for that dopamine rush again. So it leads to porn addiction. So, but that same amount of dopamine which led us to engage in that activity the first time is not enough. Now you want more, and now you want more, and now you want more. And you need to change the stimuli as well. Every time you are watching or doing some stuff, you want some novelty in that. So all this leads to higher and higher levels of dopamine secretion in the body, which leads to desensitization. So that much dopamine is not effective enough. Yeah, so that leads to addictions. So I don't know about the sexual drive, but yeah, I've heard that in a lot of cases, because of this porn addiction,
Right.
because the person is now needing more and more novelty. So
Right.
so the actual act of sexual pleasure is not that interesting. I
Sure.
don't know because
Of course.
I've not experienced that thing,
Yeah.
but this is what
Yes.
people talk about. So
Indeed.
there's a beautiful book called The Dopamine Nation, which also talks about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've read this too, that a lot of people, because they're used to seeing things in a very different manner. The production of dopamine is being done by a certain activity when you're just so used to watching things, and then doing it is a very, because reality is very different from what you watch. So it obviously impacts how your interest levels also, and you may
Yeah.
just find it very boring and stuff.
See, I've only read about all these things.
Yeah.
I've only heard about these things.
Correct.
I'm because I'm not. I'm
We're
not.
not an authority on this. No,
And I'm not a porn addict as well. So
To
so,
share
so I don't know.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So now coming, because we're talking about all of the things that are affecting our brain. We're talking about porn. We're talking about even foods that are impacting our brains, and so one big thing that people are struggling with these days is insomnia. They're not able to sleep at night, and let's ask the expert, which is you. Why do you think people are not able to sleep well? What's ruining their sleep patterns?
Well, that's the number one thing that is driving people crazy these days. Sleep. Sleep and stress. They are the biggest things that are a problem, and it is impacting their health. Now, when it comes to the lifestyle issue, is the same stuff. Same vicious circle they're trapped in. But there are a lot of other things. In particular, where people are having more and more caffeine. Yeah, there's no problem with caffeine, to be honest. Caffeine is actually good for the brain, but caffeine will disrupt your sleep because it will block the receptors in the brain that will put you to sleep. Okay. So caffeine has a half-life. If you are having, like, I have a lot of coffee as well, or even right now I'm having coffee.
Sure.
So caffeine has a half-life. Half-life is basically the amount of time which is required for half the drug to be metabolized. So caffeine has a half-life of 6 hours. So if you're having caffeine after say 2 o'clock, then you're already by 8 o'clock, half the caffeine is left in the system. So it is going to interfere with your sleep. Yeah. So studies have shown that alcohol consumption disrupts their deep sleep. So if you're having alcohol, even one night of alcohol consumption, you will have problems with the sleep. Chronic consumption of sugars and processed foods, it also creates havoc with the insulin, with the cortisol. So basically, you're having a lot of sugar. There's an insulin spike, which leads to the drop in sugar levels. Which shuttles the sugar into the cells, and then after that, there is an increase in cortisol. So there's basically a vicious cycle of insulin and cortisol, which is an excess of cortisol. Chronic elevation of cortisol will disrupt your sleep. People are chronically stressed. So
Quite,
any
yes.
activities that you can do for stress management, they are basically good for your sleep. But in general, your how you're eating. If you're eating too much of processed food, it's bad for your sleep. If you're not exercising, it is bad for your sleep. You will not be able to. So if a person starts engaging into these activities again, they start sleeping better, provided they are not having caffeine later in the night and all, later in the day.
Very nice, very nice. And how about things like, people talk about Wi-Fi signals, phone radiations. Does that impact our quality of sleep as well?
Oh yeah, that's the thing that I missed actually. Chronic exposure to screens. So any screens, they emit blue light frequency. Those blue light, they create a disruption in melatonin production. So melatonin is a hormone that puts you to sleep. Yeah. So if you are chronically exposed to screen, which everybody is these days, you can't sleep without watching your phone or tabs or TV. So if you want to sleep well, this is what I advise: at least cut off all the screen exposure 1 or 2 hours before the sleep. But it's very hard for
It
people to do
is.
it. So what I suggest
Because
is,
the general pattern these days is before going to sleep, I have to scroll reels because they're lying in their bed,
yeah,
one reel after the next, and while doing that, a lot of people actually fall asleep. So yeah,
they do fall asleep, but it's not a genuine deep sleep like how it
correct,
should be, because
correct.
it does interfere with the melatonin production, which puts you
Yes.
to sleep. So if you have to watch the screens, then wear blue light blocking glasses. That's something which I recommend. A person like me, I don't I don't have blue light blocking glasses and all, but because I'm so tired because of the
Yes.
lot of activity throughout the day, it automatically
Correct.
puts me to sleep. So movement, exercising are the things that you should be focused on more. If there's a lot of fatigue buildup, then it will also create a lot of sleep pressure. But people are not fatiguing themselves enough. They don't exercise. Yeah.
Interesting, interesting. I agree with this. There's lack of movement, and so I think that impacts sleep much more than anything else. And of course, consumption of the increased screen time is the biggest issue
Yeah.
in today's
Yeah.
date. Let's talk about also another myth that eating late at night also disturbs your sleeping quality. And
It
for instance, you're binging.
it can.
Yeah, you think so?
It
Okay.
can, not in a lot of people, but if you're binging, it definitely will.
Yeah.
So what happens if you're eating late in the night and you're eating mostly sugars and processed foods,
Right.
okay?
Maggie, this and that, and just
Whatever. So, the food that you're eating has to be digested. Now that if you're eating especially a lot of sugar and things like that, then there's an increase in blood sugar, and there is an entire process of digestion that starts. Okay, so the body has to pump in a lot of blood to the stomach. Now, that activity is a metabolic activity, which was not needed late in the night. So, it will increase your heart rate, it will stimulate your body, so it will interfere with your sleep. Another thing is if you're having a lot of carbs in the night, and not with all the people, but in a lot of people who are especially who don't exercise, If you're eating a lot of carbs, then there's a blood sugar response and there's an insulin spike, so which drops the blood sugar. So late in the night, there is a crash when you're probably halfway into your sleep, maybe 2 or 3 o'clock in the night, there is a crash, which is called reactive hypoglycemia, where basically the sugar level that was up after a late night of eating, it just crashed now. Yeah. So now a person gets into hypoglycemia, where the blood sugar has started lowering. Now the body will counteract that by producing more cortisol and in certain cases adrenaline, which will wake you up. So it does create a problem. So I tell, there are a lot of people who come to me in fact, in my questionnaire that I make people fill, a lot of people, they say they wake up in the night. So, and if I see their dinner, they're high in carbohydrates.
Correct.
So if we change that to probably something which is lower in carbohydrate and more in fats, that this problem normally starts to go away. So it does lead to a problem by elevating your heart rate, having an activity which is not required. So it just stimulates your body and through reactive hypoglycemia. So it can create problems. Having said that, there are certain people who like to have some carbs in the night because it also leads to more serotonin production. Serotonin gets converted to melatonin. But the question is how much, if you're eating carbs, what are the quality of the carbs? If you're eating late, it's okay. I'm one of the kinds who can have late dinner. I think I can sleep. Yeah. So it all depends on individual
On
to individual.
individuals, yes.
Yeah, but it does lead to those things. So that's why if you can have your dinner at least 2 hours before your bed,
Right.
it will be beneficial, and also the quality of the dinner.
That is right. And that would indeed impact the quality of a longer deep sleep.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it. Okay, now I am here with my rapid fire section. I'm going to be asking you this or that, and you need to be telling me what do you prefer. Okay, so let's get started. First is Coke or Coke Zero?
Coke Zero,
Okay, fine. Next is sugar or stevia?
stevia.
Okay. Third is alkaline water or black water?
I don't know what is black water. Normal water.
You think this alkaline water and regular water, there's not much difference between them? You won't prefer the former?
I think there are marketing gimmicks.
Okay. Let's talk about soy. Is it a superfood or do you think it's dangerous?
It's okay to have soy in moderation, to be honest.
Yeah.
There's no problem. There was a soy lobby, which was against the soy, which said, soy leads to more production of estrogen and things like that.
Yes.
But I don't think the evidence has clearly told us that's not the case. You can have soy in moderation. You can't have soy all the time, anyways.
Sure.
Yeah,
That
it's
is
okay
there.
to have some soy, no problem.
Interesting. Okay. Junk food once a week or no?
You can. See, I'm always a believer of 80-20 rule. If you 80% of the time you're eating the right foods, 20% of the time you can enjoy yourself. And that's how your life is, because you need to live your life as well,
Totally.
So 80% of the time have good foods, 20% of the time you can have your leeway. If you're on a very strict dieting regime where you have short-term goals with this much fat loss, I don't think then there is any room for a lot of junk food.
Sure.
But in general, 80-20 rule is something I have to follow.
Okay, interesting. Well, Abhinav, we had a fantastic podcast.
Thank
I
you
think
very
we busted a lot of myths. We understood a lot about deep sleep. We understood about food regulation, the fact that processed food and even excessive sugars have impacts on so many parts of our lifestyle, right from sleep to stress to our brain functioning. I'm super excited to have another session with you. Actually, just understanding what foods, especially foods, particularly gluten, dairy, etc. Are they just marketing gimmicks, or where people are saying, hey, don't
Basically,
do this,
you
don't
want to
do
have
that?
an episode on nutrition myths.
Absolutely, I want to do something.
Yeah, I would love to do
nutritionist.
that, man.
Yeah?
I can break down so many. I need to write down, to be honest,
Let's
to have a fruitful discussion on it.
Let's do that next episode. So to
Sure.
everyone who's watching us, you need to hit the subscribe button and indeed follow us on Instagram as well. It is the ABHIIFIT Podcast. And pop in your questions, connect with Abhinav and ask him what you want to know. Book a session with him. He will be more than happy to give you a good consultation on what works for your health. So up until I see you next time, I wish you all the best. Take care of yourself and stay healthy. Thank you, Abhinav.
Thank you so much, Diksha.